The Pelicans think they have the trade that could save them and the Chicago Bulls season. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And does CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram really make sense for the Chicago Bulls? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Well, not always do I go to use clips from other Locked On NBA podcasts, but we had the host of Locked On Pelicans that floated an interesting trade idea in regards to them acquiring Zach LaVine, right, to clear some salary cap space for them and sending back a couple of players that Bulls fans may or may not be interested in. But I'm not going to explain it too much. We're going to go ahead and play the clip, and we'll discuss it on the other side of this.
The Pelicans are in the luxury tax. This team ain't paying the luxury tax, especially for this team. So here's the trade. Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum for Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball. A little bit weird bringing Lonzo Ball back, but here's the rationale for it. Lonzo Ball is an expiring contract, $21.4 million this season. That comes off your books. That's basically the exact same kind of money that Trey Murphy's going to be adding on to his current salary. That's actually not bad. Then you add Zach LaVine in, and him next to Zion with DeJounte Murray, adding kind of an elite create-your-own-shot scorer like that, who shoots the three really well. I don't know. I'm a little intrigued by that idea.
Now, what? Now, make no mistake about it. Jake's a good dude. I like Jake's a lot. Make sure you guys, if you guys are Pelican fans, go and listen to Locked On Pelicans. They really do hold it down over there. But to say that the Pelicans don't want to pay the luxury tax, which is understandable, and that they may want to send out some players so they can avoid paying the luxury tax, again, understandable. Do you know the Chicago Bulls franchise and our inability and non-desire to pay the luxury tax? Now, here's what I will say. In support, not necessarily support of the trade, but in defense of why it could make some sense for the Chicago Bulls, it comes down to this, right? Is that the Bulls are also a team that does not like to pay the luxury tax. And Brandon Ingram is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. So theoretically, the Chicago Bulls would be removing Lonzo Ball, who does become an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year, sending out Zach LaVine, who has 3 years left on his deal, to get back Brandon Ingram, who's expiring, and CJ McCollum, who only has 1 year left on his deal. So it does get the money that the Chicago Bulls are paying over less time, right? But here's the thing. As we all know, the Chicago Bulls are not trying to sell off Zach LaVine. Now, Lonzo, maybe that's a different case. But that's not happening. Now, if you were trying to sell me on sending out Lonzo Ball and somehow acquiring Brandon Ingram back, whether it be in a 3-team trade or whatever else, okay. You may be able to convince me that that's actually the Bulls making a move for that's kind of win now, right? You slide in Brandon Ingram to the starting four, a more natural position for him. Keep in mind, he's played the 2 at times for this Pelicans team. Now, the defense takes a huge hit in that regard, but where are the picks? Where are the picks? Show me the picks. That's what I need to know in regards to this. The Bulls aren't in any type of position to try to help the Pelicans just rid themselves of salary cap. Now, one thing to be said with this as well, right, is that the Pelicans do have some first-round picks that they can trade. They have some first-round picks that they can move. They have their first-round pick in 2028 that they can move. They got pick swaps that they have with Milwaukee that they can move. They got some picks. Show me the picks. Because what are we talking about? And in what world does it help the Chicago Bulls, other than financially, to send out Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball for and listen, I've said it before. The Bulls have gone too far to try to keep their top 10 pick outright. They still have a chance to keep it, but to keep their top 10 pick outright, it's a slim to none. But here's the thing. We know that this Bulls team didn't want to take on $8.5 million of Zeke Nazi's contract to get a first-round pick back in the deal. That's what killed the Denver Nuggets deal. So you're now telling me that you want to take back even more money over a shorter amount of time, not get any picks, and trade their best 2 trade assets and get no picks in the deal? No. What are we doing here? Like, I get it. I understand. The Bulls are a franchise that is in a place where you look at this team and you wonder, what are we doing? What are we doing? But outside of that, we're not in the place to just do whatever the heck listen. I am so confused out of what's happening here. I'm so confused. I don't know anymore, man. I have no idea what's going on here. Like I said, Jake is a good dude. No knock to Locked On Pelicans, because I get it. He's trying to do something that is best for his team. That's trying to get his team under the luxury tax. But what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Winton, that trade is garbage. I'm extremely tired of other NBA teams trying to lowball the Bulls. And that, you know what it is? This is still AK's fault. I'm telling y'all right now, this is still 100% Arturas Karnisova's fault, because the fact that teams even think that they can get away with offering something like this goes back to AK and Eversley. This is their fault for what they've done to this team. This is their fault. 125%. It's their fault on what the deals that they've taken that made people think that you can offer the Chicago Bulls pennies on the dollar for trades, and that eventually the Chicago Bulls are just going to take it just to take it. Is there a scenario in which 2 teams near the luxury tax can make a trade and stay below the tax? Would a trade exception apply? If not, a trade with Pels is unrealistic. Well, here's the thing. It's not about the luxury tax this season. It's about clearing cap for the Pelicans next season, because with Lonzo Ball's contract expiring, whereas CJ McCollum's has an additional year, that actually gets them below the luxury tax for next year. It's for next year. Same thing with the Bulls, right? This is a move where the Bulls are not over the luxury tax, and it wouldn't necessarily send them above the luxury tax, but we know that this Bulls team looked at Zeke Naji's contract, which was only $8 million, and said, no. Now, CJ McCollum is a lot better player than Zeke Naji. Brandon Ingram expires at the end of the year. You can let go of Brandon Ingram. You cannot re-sign him. No harm, no foul there. You actually gain some money back because his money and Zach's money does not go for the same amount of time. So you have that, right? And even CJ McCollum's contract next year is less than Zach LaVine's next year. So technically, the Chicago Bulls gain more money into their salary cap for next season in this proposed trade. But it's not, again, you're not going to sell off Zach LaVine just to sell him off. Where are the picks? That's the point that I'm getting into this. Where are the picks? Trade, I believe it when I see it. If this Bull teams make a trade, stripper booty is on buffet. First of all, the fact that I just read that on Locked On is crazy. And I won't be lining up early. That is crazy. First of all, that's wild, JDH. Got to proofread your comments over here, bro. Got to proofread those comments. But with that said, this is a move where I look at it and I say, there's no way. There's no way, right? Unless you get a third team involved in which some assets come back where the Bulls unload some other money, right? If you work this out into a 3-team trade, and let's say Brandon Ingram goes to a third team, the Bulls get back expiring money, and because of that expiring money, they get back even more assets than what the Pelicans are offering in this trade. That's the only way that I see the Chicago Bulls really biting on this type of trade offer. So and that's just the realistic side of it. I just don't see this being something that the Bulls really go after. Now, here's the thing. If the Pelicans call the Chicago Bulls and they say, hey, this is what we have to offer. We want to pair DeJounte Murray with Zach LaVine. That's what we want. We need DeJounte. We need Zach LaVine. We need that to be our backcourt of the future. We're not going to trade our lottery pick this year, but then we'll have Trey Murphy. We'll have Herb Jones. We'd have Zach LaVine, and we had whoever we draft. Okay, maybe you can start getting something done there, but a third team has to be involved or more assets have to come back for the Chicago Bulls, at least in my opinion. But as always, you guys can let me know how you guys feel on that and this trade idea down below. Now, with that said, we got to get into a message from one of our sponsors. This time, we're going to get into one from Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. Decluttering and refreshing your space can make a world of difference as you settle back into your routine. Whether you're tidying it up, cleaning out, or just looking to give your home a fresh new look for the year, Wayfair has everything you need, and it's all within your budget. I use Wayfair to design my entire nursery for our newborn. Their massive selection made it easy to find a few pieces that fit my style perfectly. And the best part, free. Hassle-free delivery, even on the bigger items. Plus, their site is so user-friendly, I had everything I wanted in no time. Now it's time to find a comfortable chair I can watch games in, and I'll be using Wayfair to help me find the perfect one. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every single style, every single home. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, Bulls fans. Man, listen. Stop trying to fleece the Chicago Bulls. And like I said before, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming any NBA fan. I'm not blaming any NBA team. I'm blaming AK and Eversley because they have created a situation in which people think that they can just run. That they could just run with the Chicago Bulls assets and they could just run for the hills. What are we doing? What are we doing? Robbie would have come in here. The Bulls would be stupid to trade Lonzo. I don't like the fact that they're trading LaVine either. I like Kobe White, always been really high on him, but inconsistent. We should evaluate Kobe White. Well, again, I love that everybody thinks that it's this thing of the Bulls have an option. They don't, right? It's not this thing where it's like, let's trade this piece over that piece. You got to keep in mind the situation. I don't like the idea of them trading Lonzo either, but there is a extreme possibility that the Chicago Bulls are not re-signing Lonzo Ball at the end of the season. And thus, much like we talked about with Drummond, much like we talked about with DeMar, if you know you're not going to sign, we can talk all day about should they re-sign Lonzo or not. That's a different conversation in this. If the Bulls know that they're not re-signing Lonzo at the end of the season, at that point, you got to see what he's out on the trade market because you don't want to lose an asset for nothing if you can get something back for him. As far as Zach LaVine, I'll say this. Zach LaVine, his trade value is going to be higher than Kobe. Unfortunately, the Bulls killed Kobe White's trade value. Coming into the season, I would have agreed with you if they were going to trade either one. Kobe would have probably net them more back because of his contract and how he finished last season. But you forced him out of his natural role. You made him start playing offense differently than what he played last year, which then made inconsistencies already tougher because he had to relearn a new position yet again. And the Bulls continue to kill their players' trade value. They have to trade people regardless and maximize their assets. If they don't, you have no pathway, have no picks to facilitate you anywhere, at least get value for your guys and chance to keep. Look, listen, the Bulls have picks. This whole concept of the Bulls have no picks is a farce. The Bulls have picks. The Bulls have all their first-round picks other than one that they owe to the San Antonio Spurs. So the Bulls have picks. Let's stop that narrative right there. The Bulls got picks. Now, the Bulls can't trade some of their picks right now because of the protections by the Spurs, but once that pick actually conveys, the Bulls got picks. That's not even an issue here, right? And like I said before, I said this on yesterday's episode, we're well past the Bulls being able to lose enough to guarantee that they're going to keep their pick. They can increase their chances, but they can't guarantee that they're going to keep their pick. The undervaluing is why we won't trade Zach most likely. I think Torrey could get traded, but he's injured right now, and I think Zoe could be traded. If I had to guess, Vooch might be moved, but who knows? Completely agree with you there, Vaughn. If we had to look at the three most likely Bulls to be traded, Zoe, Torrey Craig, Nikola Vucevic. I completely agree. Those are probably the most likely Bulls that could be moved at this trade deadline. But I want to talk about something other than trades when it comes to the Chicago Bulls. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the Bulls' possibility of building a little win streak here. Now, for people like football, CF Candy, my brother, I want to make sure that everybody knows we disagree sometimes, but I love that dude. He's a big supporter. Shout out to football, CF Candy. Again, this is a note to everybody. You don't have to agree to understand. I agree. I understand a lot of where football CF Candy's coming from. I just don't always agree with him. But that's my dude. We rock with him. We're not going to allow nobody to talk crazy about him. But the Bulls in their next few games, they have 4 games straight against teams that are either right at 500 in the Atlanta Hawks and 3 teams below 500. The Bulls are facing off against 3 of the worst teams in the Western Conference over the next week. Today, we got a game against the Pelicans. Now, Zion has returned. That always is going to be something like the Bulls can't overlook anything. We started off our season with a loss to the Pelicans, actually, right? So you can't overlook the Pelicans. But we already know the Pelicans record, worst in the Western Conference. We then have a game against Atlanta tomorrow on Wednesday in a back-to-back. Shout out to them. And then Friday, we have a game against Charlotte, losing record there, and a game against Portland. Those 4 games, right? I want to be very key and clear. Those 4 games could do something, right? They can either, if the Bulls win all 4 of those games, kiss it goodbye. When you talk about the Bulls guaranteeing keeping their pick, it's done. It's over with. It's done. It's not a chance of it happening. You might as well stop. Don't type. Don't worry. All my tanking fans, if the Bulls win the next 4 games in a row, which is still a long shot because the Bulls haven't had a winning streak that long in over a year, if the Bulls win those 4 games in a row, you can kiss everything goodbye. The tanking fans, my pro tankers, you might as well pack it up, get ready for next year. It's not happening. If the Bulls happen to lose all 4 of those games, my pro tanking fans, it's y'all time to shine. My anti-tankers, get ready because the pro tankers are going to have a week of cooking you. That's what's going to happen. If the Bulls lose these 4 games in a row against sub 500 teams, my pro tanking fans, that's your time. That's your time. The whole week is your time to shine. You got it. My anti-tankers, if the Bulls lose all 4 of those games, you're done. You're cooked for a week at least. You're cooked, right? And so the Bulls' ability to build a little bit of a win streak in here could be really interesting on what it could mean for the rest of the season and even leading into that trade deadline. That will put you about 10 days before the trade deadline for the Bulls to make something, right? So I don't want to glaze an important stretch because keep in mind, after that stretch, after Friday's game against Charlotte, we have a West Coast road trip in which we face Portland, LA, and Golden State. There's 3 games there, right? We then come back home. We face off against Philly and Denver. And then we got Boston, Toronto, Detroit, Miami, Minnesota. That leads you to the trade deadline. So when the Bulls make go lead into the trade deadline, they're going to have the perfect mixed bag to really see where this team sits. And I think between now and the trade deadline, you're going to have every bit of the information that everybody needs to answer the question on what are the Bulls doing this season. The question is in, they stopped, finish, finito. They're done at that point in time. And that you just got to ask yourself the question then on how the front office views that and how does it help them reformat their goals, right? Another winning streak is very plausible, but as we know, another losing streak is possible as well. The bipolar Bulls could do anything. Very big facts on that one. Anti-tankers belong in the bin. They don't want to see us shine. No, they just have a different route of getting there. Not a chance in hell they lose all 4, not a chance in hell they win all 4. Bulls will go 2-2, and we'll still be wondering what the F is this direction. Vaughn, though, and as you know, brother, because me and you have these conversations, anytime you say there's no chance of the Bulls doing something, how many times does that happen? I just want you to answer that. Out of any time that you've thought, said out loud, or felt, there's no way that the Chicago Bulls do this, whether it's good or bad, how many times has it ended up happening? That's all I'm going to say on that one. By the way, y'all tell Vaughn, get off the sideline, get in the game. Vaughn has an open invitation on Locked On Bulls anytime over the next 10 days. There you go. We're putting it out. We're putting it on wax so everybody can know. Y'all tell Vaughn, I want to see everybody in the comment section right now. Tell Vaughn to get in the game. He's getting called up from the G League. We're calling Vaughn. Oh, that's because listen, Legion Hoops podcast, y'all make sure y'all go and check them out. Hoops Legion, I should say. Y'all make sure y'all go and check them out. They're not G League. That's a legit podcast. Y'all go show them some love. But tell Vaughn he's getting this call up. Tell them get off the bench and get in the game. No Javon Carter's over here. Vaughn has an open invitation over the next 10 days. So that's between now and January 24th to get in the game and come on Locked On Bulls. But with that said, we got to get in the game, and we got to get into a message from a couple of our sponsors. The first one, which is Game Time. Win or lose, rain or shine, there's nothing like being there in person at a live event. Whether it's a big game or a concert or comedy show, Game Time makes it easier than ever to find great tickets at amazing prices. With a new feature, Game Time Picks, you can skip the endless scrolling and get right to the best deals on incredible seats, and it's all about saving you time and money while finding the perfect tickets. Plus, you can use the Super Deal option to score top-notch seats at unbeatable prices. Game Time also has features that make buying tickets stress-free, like all-in pricing, no surprise fees at checkout, and a panoramic seat view so you know exactly what your view will look like before you even buy your ticket. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Let me clear this out. That is funny. It's game time. All right. I also got to get into a message from another one of our sponsors. And this one is Hungry Root. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, I've always struggled to find the time. Between work, life, and trying to eat healthier, I'd buy things I don't need and still end up stressed out about what to cook. Then I discovered Hungry Root. It's been a total game changer. Hungry Root handles your grocery shopping and meal planning, recommending meals based on your taste and health goals. From anti-inflammatory to high-protein options, they've got it all. And the best part, every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. Quick, healthy, and delicious meals delivered straight to your door. It doesn't get any easier than this. Even my kid, who's a picky eater, loved every meal I made with Hungry Root. It made me feel like a rock star in the kitchen. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box and free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LOCKEDONNBA. hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, my Bulls fans, make sure you guys also go to LockedOnDaily.com to sign up for the Locked On Bulls daily newsletter delivered right to your inbox. Listen, we're sliding in your inbox like Zion, but it's good this time. It's good. It's for positive reasons. It's good. We bring glad tidings. We bring you Bulls news straight to your inbox. So open up, go to LockedOnDaily.com to slide on there. Give us that permission to slide in them DMs. But with that said, man, I want to get into one surprise stat before we end this show, and that is Matas Buzelis. Matas Buzelis is a guy that a lot of Bulls fans want to see more on, right? I think Matas Buzelis has had, for what it's worth, he's already shown growth in certain areas. He doesn't play a lot of minutes, so you can't really say it's a lot of minutes or a lot of growth in that area. But what Matas Buzelis is doing right now, and I look at a team in the Chicago Bulls that have been missing one thing for the entirety of the 5 years now. Are we 5 years into Billy Donovan? That's crazy. Into Billy Donovan's tenure is rim protection. Matas Buzelis leads the team in blocks this season while being in the 10th in total minutes played on the Bulls roster. Now, does that say more about how bad the Bulls are at rim protection? Yeah, but I think it also shows the ability and the special ability that Matas has as a rim protector. If Matas Buzelis continues to grow as a rim protector for this team, right, that brings the dynamic that the Bulls have just not had for so long. And I'll say this, while yes, the Bulls are bad at rim protection, but if you can lead your team in rim protection at being 10th in minutes, imagine how many more opportunities Matas Buzelis is going to get at blocking shots when he is playing heavier minutes more consistently. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying now. I'm not saying that this is something that we should be banging the desk for to say that Matas needs to play more minutes or whatever else it is. But it is something that Matas is doing really, really well. And he hasn't even really gained the NBA timing, right? Once that timing in the game slows down for him, imagine how much better he can be at shot blocking as well. right? That's what's crazy about this. Matas Buzelis, even being in a rookie year, leading the team in anything, I think says a lot about that ability. Because if Matas Buzelis was one of those rookies that was averaging 18, 20 minutes per game, we're talking about rim protection that the Bulls have needed for years that has just been missing from this roster. So I hope that this continues for Matas. I just wanted to end the show speaking a little positively, and Matas Buzelis is something really positive to talk about with this team. And I can't wait to see how much growth happens between year 1 and 2. Heck, even between the first half of the season to the second half of the season for Matas Buzelis, if Billy Donovan actually plays him more, there's a lot of room to say that Matas Buzelis has a ton of more growth that he can do for this Bulls team as well. But as always, you guys can let me know how you feel on everything down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me at CEO Haize. Locked On Bulls is a member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. We're free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, Amazon, Odyssey. You can get us on your Fire TV. If you want to see Locked On Bulls in a place, we're there, man. So make sure you guys go and support us at each and every one of those places. Before we go as well, I got to ask you guys for two things. Go to LockedOnDaily.com to sign up for the Locked On Bulls daily newsletter. If you're a YouTube watcher, pull us up in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review there. It'll help us grow over there. If you're a podcast listener listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go over to the YouTube, right? Everybody got a YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Help the channel grow over on YouTube. But that's my time for today, man. I'll see you guys after the game tonight. Stay locked in. We'll see if Vaughn actually answers that call and gets in the game tonight on the post-game show. Love you guys. Go Bulls. See Red, y'all. Peace.